praise your name, I will praise your name. When times of need carry on, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. Though darkness falls all around, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. If I forget what I found, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. For you are faithful, Lord, you lift my head. You're my provider, you're my strength and joy. I'll trust you, Lord, I'll worship you, I love you, Lord, I'll honor you. Lord, I will lift up my soul, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. If I feel lost and alone, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. Though I may labor in vain, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. Through all the heartache and pain, I will praise your name, I will praise your name. For you are faithful, Lord, you lift my head. You're my provider, you're my strength and joy. I'll trust you, Lord, I'll worship you, I love you, Lord, I'll honor. I will trust you, Lord, I'll trust you, Lord, I'll worship everything I say. I love you, Lord, I'll honor you. I'll trust, never let me go. I'll worship, never let me down. I'll love, forever I will love you. I'll love, I'll trust every hour, every day. I'll worship, that's why I worship you. I will praise you, Lord. I'll honor you. Lord, I will lift up my song. I will praise your name, I will praise your name.
Hallelujah. Let Lord Jesus Christ shine forth. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining us. Welcome to another live stream with TCCI Ministries. We do hope and pray that you are all enjoying our triune God and life is looking all right from your side. Tonight we will be learning little bit from, not little bit maybe, we will be learning lots of from Shaddy Nasser, which he did recently. He did interview on let's label it as the different Arabic Qurans. We will be going through that video with Brother Jai Apologetics and also with Daughter of Christ. Peace of Christ be with you all.
Hello, peace of Christ be with you, sister. How are you?
By God's grace, I'm good. Thank you. What happened to the voice?
Can you hear me? I
Yes,
hope you can
yes.
hear well.
Yeah,
How
it's
how
all
are you,
back.
brother Jai, as well? I need to speak up.
Hey, God bless you both. Thank you so much for having me on. Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the topic today
It
with
should be
Shaddy
more
Nasser,
fun.
and yeah, should be exciting.
Okay, so let's go through the basics. So Ja, you are like kind of our honor guest tonight because Tuesdays is usually Daughter of Christ and me, we have to hang together. But thank you very much for being with us tonight. So I'll start with you, Jaya. How have you been? How is life with you?
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me on Daughter's Night. I'm really honored and as always to be with you both. I love doing streams with you sisters and being with you all, the viewers and everyone. Yeah, I'm doing great. Everything's going well on my end. Praise God. Hope that you're doing well, sister and daughter. Hope you're doing well as well.
How can you be doing great? How is your relationship with Lord?
That's what makes everything great, our relationship with God. So sometimes even when we have circumstances in life that may bring us down, at the end of the day, the most important thing is our relationship with God. As long as we are in right relation with God, then everything else doesn't really matter, does it?
Yeah, great. Good to have you, brother. And Daughter of Christ, how are you, beloved?
Good, thank you. Sister, only Jai is allowed to crash my night, okay? No one else is allowed to come on Tuesday night with me.
Um,
I'm well, thank you.
Well, now lots of people have lots of rights from the new app we are using, so
Uh,
not sure if it be only your privilege. How have you been, sister?
I'm well, sister. I've been watching this video of Shaddy Nasser, and he does very well, sister, in telling the truth. And the truth always destroys that religion called Islam. So I'm excited for tonight, sister.
Good, 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 good. So, those of you who are joining us in the chat, thank you very much for being with us. Our topic is linked with the preservation of the Quran. We will be watching approximate, thank you, Julian, for confirmation of the sound. We will be watching approximate 19 minutes video, which is edited from just under the 2 hours video, and learn from Shaddy, Nasir, and then also talk about how actually officially Quran is being corrupted, so that we can have better understanding. We can use that in our engagements with Muslim people. And those of you who will be engaging with us in the chat, if you want to get my attention, please put @ in front of DCCI Ministries. Hopefully that will get my attention. And then, as always, please do not copy and paste the same thing again and again. I identify that as harassment, and it is just like very, very bad thing. Harassment is just bad. Also, do not share anyone's personal details in the chat. So thank you very much for working with us to have healthy night. Um, I must express actually, I'm not sure how we are going to deal with this live stream because I am recovering from heartbreak. I would say, this week has been very, not this week actually, since mid last week, my heart is being broken very badly, and all I am doing is, what do people do when they are heartbroken? All I'm doing is trying to find ice cream to eat, as well as put my PJs on, and just like watch these sad videos and deal with my heartbroken. I am heartbroken because I heard on the news last week the mayor of London, he is apparently Muslim, identified, expressed actually, expressed that he's forced to have 24/7 protection by Met Police in the intention, because of his skin color, as well as the God he worships. The mayor of London is being forced to have 24/7 protection because of his skin color, as well as because of the God who he worships. Anyone wants to comment on this, guys?
Sister, you shouldn't allow the politics of the UK to give you heartbreak, then your heart will always be broken, Hattie.
It's broken. It's very bad broken. Like, I try to watch all those movies to melt it. I've been not eating first, I need to find, but I've been like working on ice creams to like make sure I recover from this broken heart, because it just like it was so sad. Like, poor guy is being forced.
He'll do just fine, Hattie. I don't know, he's very rich. He's got all the bodyguards. Sister, when you said heartbroken, I got scared.
No,
I thought it was something real.
I just thought it was like hilarious. Like, he's saying, because of my skin color and because of the God I worship, I am forced
Uh-huh.
to have 24/7 med protection.
Can't believe even the mayor of London is doing victim role,
I
sister.
know,
It's just
I know,
like
I
he's
know.
given everything. He's position of power. He's got money, and he's crying.
He even takes, as a Muslim, he even takes his dog, okay, dog which he keeps in the home, to the park with the extra protection for
Well,
walk.
the God he worships says that you can't have a dog in the home. So how do we see that? What do you think, Jai? This is like ridiculous.
From what I understand, he supports LGBTQ plus, right? Is that correct?
Right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
So what God exactly does he worship that people are so afraid of? I don't know. It seems like he's appeasing both crowds. He's appeasing the secular people by supporting LGBTQ plus, and then he's supporting the Muslims when he says Islamic sort of sentimental things and supporting them. So I guess he has support from both sides. I mean, do you think this will get him reelected? People might feel bad for him or something.
Yeah, I already, if I was living in London, I would vote for him because I already feel so bad for him.
You need to
Yeah, hey,
donate.
that could do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
We need to donate the money that we don't have to this rich man to help him feel better.
Anyway, let's get on with proper business. Okay, so we will be talking about actually preservation of the Quran. That was just a side note. I just thought I share with you so you see how playing victim game gives you protection as well as gives you platform. So we will be talking about the video where Yasir Qadhi, not Yasir Qadhi, Shaddy Nasir talks about the preservation of the Quran, and also in that video, he's making comment on that big interview where Yasir Qadhi expressed there are holes in the narrative. So it's altogether 19 minutes. I'm not sure if we are able to kind of do a whole of it, but we will start with that. So as I said, now you know the topic, you know what we are discussing. Please engage with us in that, with the topic you are given, and put at sign in front of DCCI ministries to get our attention. And I am feeling right now, because I'm heartbroken, I am thinking I'm gonna fire the boss of Cheesecake Club very soon, but we will see,
CT.
yeah. His sister, it is, I know it is your department, but I feel I'm gonna fire him. He's so racist towards me and so
What did he do?
sexist. I will be,
Oh, CT,
he's
don't make
not
fun
gonna,
of our
he's not
sister.
gonna give me cheesecake. Anyway, let's get on with the business. Okay, so brother and sister, sorry, if you want to kind of stop me during the video, just tell me, I'll pause. Otherwise, I will just pick my line and then I will pause and then ask your views. I know Daughter of Christ watched the video. I know Jay just like picked up little bit and watched little bit. So overall, hopefully it will be useful evening for us all.
Okay, so Zayd, he went around and then he started asking, other companions, okay, tell me what you memorized. And then he started writing them down. At the end, according to one narrative, so Abu Bakr, they put the collection in front of him. And then he said, what should we call it? One answered, he said, why don't we call it, let's call it the Torah, or let's call it the scripture, Injil. And then he said, no, this is what the Jews call their scripture.
Right.
We don't want to call it the same. And then someone suggested that, okay, so why don't we call it Mus'haf, Codex? This is what they call it in Ethiopia, right? And they said, okay, so that's a good, so let's call it a Mus'haf. They didn't even call it Quran. It's right that the issue of the variant readings, right, or the ahraf, it is problematic.
Comment on that.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. So we just heard from Shaddy Nasser regarding how they were kind of trying to figure out what will be the name of the Quran, written Quran. That already shows us at the time of when Muhammad died, he didn't even bother to tell anyone. If you decided to do Buddha in the future, this is the name of how you should be calling this book. Anyway, so let's turn to gentlemen's first. Brother Jai.
Oh, okay. Interesting choice on the order there, but all right. Uh, so yeah, he's getting this from As-Suyuti. As-Suyuti has a narration where this is about the compilation of the Quran, Abu Bakr, when he's compiling the Quran. And you and I, sister, went over this last Thursday. We went over these stories together. And what we saw was that they would even take verses of the Quran from just one singular person and put it in there. And notice how I just called it the Quran. That was the whole discovery. That was the whole dispute. So they were saying, well, what do we call this? What do we call this thing that we just collected all together? Do we call it the Quran? Do we call it the Torah? Do we call it the Injil? They didn't know what to call it. So it was suggested that because in Ethiopia, apparently, this is according to the narration. In Ethiopia, they call it the Mus'haf. Mus'haf is basically the Arabic word for a codex, or let's say like a codex. So it's something that's between two pages, right, or two covers. And yeah, so I'll let Sister Daughter of Christ, if you want to add on to that, go ahead.
Yeah, it's basically just an improvisation religion. It's all about plagiarism from wherever we can find. What shall we do next? What shall we call this? What shall we call this book that's meant to be a revelation from Allah? Like Muhammad didn't tell him. Muhammad is dead, so let's make it up. Basically, is what happened, and they had to go plagiarize because there is not one original thought in Islam. They have to plagiarize from other people what to call their own book.
That already like makes us to think through, like even if they are even having discussion regarding this, that means Muhammad didn't even kind of give them much option or much idea what's supposed to be they doing, what they memorized, or what they are going to write down in the future, which already brings like lots of questions on actually what is the name of this so-called Quran. Like if I've got English translations and they are all named as Quran. Some of them with Q, some of them with K, but it says Quran.
Billy Mandely says, "Let's call it what the goat did not eat."
Yeah.
Yeah, and so this is a point that Muslims will bring up often. They'll bring up this point quite a lot, and they'll talk to us and they'll say, well, you don't know the difference between a Mus'haf and the Quran. What's the difference between a Mus'haf and a Quran? And there's really no difference except in Muslim theology. And it's just sort of like, well, I think Shaddy Nasser goes over it. As you said, sister, I didn't actually watch the entirety of this interview, but I did see parts. In the part that I did see, he went over this distinction between a Mus'haf and a Quran, and we might hear that from him today.
Yeah, so Musaf is the kind of written version of what Allah revealed. Quran is apparently what is eternal tablets or will be the speech of Allah. Hopefully we will get to hear that, or we will see if we are able to hear that. So let's continue, or anyone wants to make any other points so far?
No, continue.
I'm all set.
Yeah. I'll start from the beginning in the intention because I lost my place. So.
Okay, so Zayd, he went around and then he started asking, other companions, okay, tell me what you memorized. And then he started writing them down. At the end, according to one narrative, so Abu Bakr, they put the collection in front of him. And then he said, what should we call it? One answered, he said, why don't we call it, let's call it the Torah, or let's call it the scripture, or Injil. And then he said, no, this is what the Jews call their scripture.
Right.
We don't want to call it the same. And then someone suggested that, okay, so why don't we call it Mus'haf, Codex? This is what they call it in Ethiopia, right? And they said, okay, so that's a good, so let's call it a Mus'haf. They didn't even call it Quran. It's right that the issue of the variant readings, right, or the ahruf, it is problematic from a theological perspective, right? If you want to say, well, the Quran is one and it is the word of God, and then you have, all these variant readings, well, then it is a problem, for you, if God is really uttering all these variants. Well, let us start with, first the miracle issue. There are academics,
Yeah, let's pause there.
Yeah, let's pause here. Who wants to go first and make a comment what we heard so far?
We'll let ladies first.
That's just not good at all. Thought of Christ?
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better, really. It is problem if you think the word of God is one thing and then you have all these variations. Which one did he say? Very problematic, yeah. And it is a theological problem. Notice that he didn't say recitations, pronunciations, dialects. He said it's a problem, theological problem. Brother or sister?
Yeah. Did you want to go, Sister Tone?
Sure, brother. I will fire
Okay.
you too soon. So, I guess that will be problem for Muslim missionaries or for Dawah gangs who states that there is only one perfect Quran dot by dot, letter by letter, sound by sound, and that is the eternal speech of Allah which reveals to mankind. Then you have a problem. But academics who simply say, oh, actually, I don't want to get into that theological side of it, I'm just going to do research and share what I have, then you wouldn't have that much problem on what are those different Arabic Qurans, what is this so-called ahruf or qiraat.
Right. And I've heard Shaddy Nasser make a similar point about this in the past, where in another lecture where he talks about how when Ibn Mujahid was doing his canonization, so this is after Abu Bakr, after Uthman, hundreds and hundreds of years later, he comes and he is now coming and doing another canonization where he picks from 50 different readings, and he picks 7 out of 50 different readings, and it's the same. He used the same sort of language there, like, here's a new religion, here's the new religion. You can't really have 50 variations of this holy book, right? So you have to limit it in some way. And so this is what I think this is what he means when he says the theological problems. Like, you have all of these different variations, but yet they're supposed, the at least according to the standard narrative, which we'll get to, but according to the standard narrative, there's only one Quran. And so imagine if that's what you're told, and then you see there's over 50 or up to 50. So yeah, it's very problematic from that perspective.
So it's approximate 300 years after death of Muhammad, 930 years. Muslim world is having 50 different Arabic Qurans, and now they are thinking through, okay, we can't have 50 Qurans and identify them. Yes, he's Muslim. Identify them as which one is the word of Allah, or a word of Allah. How many word of Allah do we have? So what he does is like, okay, let me pick some. He picks whatever he likes or whichever he likes, and then from that we've got his collections. Sorry, I got distracted with something on the chat. I'm gonna turn off the chat.
Did
so
you?
that I don't get distracted.
All right. Yeah, daughter and I will keep an eye on it. Right, daughter? We'll
Yeah, I love the chat. I'm always looking.
Yeah, so
All
as
right.
he collects which Quran's supposed to be like the one is revealed, he picks whatever suits to him best, and then we get to read from Islamic sources. People even end up in prisons and they are being tortured, for them to not like just follow with what was chosen or accept what was chosen. So that was already a problem. Within only 300 years after the death of Muhammad, 50 different Arabic Qurans are circulating. Not one, not two, not seven, but 50. That's a lot of number.
Right. And even in these hadith about the ahruf, which no Muslim knows what that means, there's problems with, in one version, actually in multiple versions of this hadith, it talks about this bringing confusion to the people, to the companions of Muhammad, his like disciples, you can say, or his apostles. It brought confusion to them. It brought confusion to them because they're like, I never heard the Quran recited like this before, and where is this coming from? This is not how Muhammad said it. And so then they brought it to Muhammad, and he would say, yeah, I heard it like this, I heard it like that, and Gabriel brought it to me in 7 different ways, or 7 ahruf. So this was always a problem since the very beginning. In fact, Yasir Qadhi even mentions this. He says, yes, this always brought doubt to the Muslims since the very beginning. Once they found out that there are different versions of the Quran, different variations, exactly as Shaddy Nasser said, this creates these problems. So yeah.
Yeah, and solution to the problem is there are holes in the narrative. Let's not talk about it.
Yeah, take my class. Take my class.
Yeah. Let's pick up where we left.
Don't hold the Quran to such standards, and they think that it is written by a person in the 7th century. It's full of mistakes, contradictions, and they also base their research starting from that viewpoint. The Islamic tradition says that this is why the Quran is a miracle, because no one was able to imitate its style. Okay, now whether this is true or not, that's open to discussion. We do have many attempts for people back in the days and even recently that they try to emulate the style of the Quran. Of course, if you are, holding this text as the perfect example of eloquence, you are going to downplay any attempt, right, to emulate it. So at the end of the day, it's very difficult to be subjective in matters of literary taste, to say that, oh, this text is more eloquent than this because I feel it. First point, let's talk about memory and memory.
Okay. Anyone wants to make any comment regarding what we heard?
Yeah. Yasir Qadhi, Shaddy Nasser just destroyed the Quran's challenge. They're basically saying it's a stupid challenge to say that do something as eloquent as this, because eloquence is subjective. Sister, Shaddy Nasser's logic is better than Allah's logic. He's saying this is subjective, and there has been many attempts at emulating the style of the Quran. May I say, me and my brother Jai, we've listened to some of those attempts, and they're much better than the Quran. Me personally, my viewpoint.
Yeah, I agree.
You agree, brother?
Yeah, definitely.
The Quran is the most boring book you'll ever read in any language. In Arabic, it will put you to sleep. In English, it will put you to sleep faster. And it's not coherent and it's not beautiful, according to me. And he's saying it's subjective. If you've been told something is beautiful from when you're very young, you want to believe it, and anything else that is better than it, you're gonna downplay it and say no. It's not a miracle. A miracle is not something that's subjective. A miracle is something everybody can see, and it's something that breaks the laws of nature. Whether something is good literary work is not a miracle. It's just stupid. That's a quote. That's what I think.
So if you simply want to save from the save money from the sleeping pills, all you've got to do is read the Quran and then drink some ayran next to it. I remember a couple of years ago when I first started using the True Furqan. Jai, do you know about that book, True Furqan?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
book which was written in the intention meet the criteria Allah puts forward regarding the produce something like this.
Hmm.
So what I did was I simply tear the page and then I took it to the mosques and then I was asking Muslims, mainly the imams, I don't know which part of the Quran this surah is belong to. Can you help me to kind of put in the right place? Like, is it Surah 1? Is it Surah 8? Which Surah is it? They would read it and then they would say, oh, yeah, it's from the Quran. I'll get back to you which Surah. So they would take like whole week until like I meet with them next week to kind of come up with something to say, oh, this is from this part of the Quran. So as they read it, they wouldn't even say, oh, that's not from the Quran either. In somehow they would fall into my kind of trip, like as I was kind of
You tricked
questioning.
them, sister.
Yeah, I tricked them. Yeah, it's not I tricked them. I just simply asked them, do you know which part of the Quran is this? Because they could simply say, oh, this is not from the Quran. But what they've done that, oh yeah, it's from the Quran. I can't remember which surah. I will let you know next week. So I didn't trick them. It's just like they fall into it.
It just goes to show, yeah. So this is like the Quran then.
Yeah, and then you can like produce a book, and then identify, oh, this is written so wonderfully, so beautiful. Can you compare this, or can we check if this is better than Quran or not? Then who is the one who is going to judge that? Are you able to have a chit chat with Allah or Gabriel to say like, oh, Gabriel, can you compare this if this is better than or better miracle than the word of Allah as Quran in this occasion? Who is going to judge it? That's another question. But Jai, what do you think?
Yeah, this challenge that it's set forth is really funny, and like you both mentioned, there are people who have come up and met this challenge. In my opinion, they've met this challenge and they've produced things that even Muslims think is the Quran. Like in your case, even people at the mosque, they thought that this was the Quran. There's actually a sheikh from Saudi Arabia who goes around to Europe and he does like these dawah tours and speeches. And one of the things that he does is he gets people on stage and asks them, like, do you know Arabic? Do you know Urdu? Do you know Persian? Or like any kind of languages that might have Arabic words in them? And they're like, no, 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 we don't know these languages. And then what he does is he's okay, I'm going to recite two things for you. And I want you to tell me what you think is like more beautiful or what you think is more superior. And so what he's doing is he's going to recite the Quran one time, and the other time he's just going to make up some random, like, you know, some like poetry or so. Like one of them is called the surah of atufah, the apple. He has like this one called like the chapter of the apple, and it's like, you know, oh, he says it like very eloquently, like it's like he's reciting the Quran, but really in Arabic he's just saying things like, you know, Ahmed went to the store to buy an apple and blah blah, like, but in Arabic he's reciting it as if he would recite the Quran, right? And so what it does is there's recorded instances on YouTube. We can show these videos to people where the person who he's asking this to, they say, oh, I like the one that's not the Quran. I like the one that you read that's not the Quran. And so what he does is he tries to backtrack and he says, okay, let me try to recite the Quran even more without telling them it's the Quran. And he's okay, now which one do you think is better? You know, maybe he's really emphasizing on his breathing or his like singing abilities or recitation or whatever. This the third time around, and they'll say, no, we want the other one, the one that's not the Quran. So anyway, long story short, he's trying to do is he's trying to bring this challenge out to modern day and say even people who don't understand Arabic, they can recognize the distinction between the words of God and the words of man. And this fails so many times. Even this own sheikh, he has produced things that people thought were more superior than the Quran. So in his own challenge, he has created, you know, you can say poetry or whatever it is that in some people's minds surpasses the Quran. So even though he's trying to prove the challenge, he's you know, instances where he disproves it. And there are many other things like the True Furqan, the one that you mentioned. I think it's any Shorosh who translates it, but I think the original authors, they're anonymous, the Arabic, and he translates it into English for people. And yeah, this surpasses the Quran in many ways as well.
Yeah, and then like you can hear something which looks nice, but actually they are insulting you. Like I know people who's got very good.
Exactly.
I know people who's got very good articulation skills, or they've got very good voice, and then even they tell you something in the language you don't understand, you just like, wow, I am fall in love with that voice. But once you listen carefully, you are, oh, I just been insulted. Just
Exactly.
and you get to
Yeah.
even hear like people who travel to Muslim majority countries, and then they just hear the sound of it. Oh, it's beautiful, therefore I'm gonna become a Muslim. We did hear even testimonies in the past where people are just becoming a Muslim because of the sound is beautiful. Just like very, very stupid logic there. But anyway.
Yeah. So, oh, sorry, sister, go ahead.
No, go on, brother.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, like, so Shaddy Nasser is pointing out the subjective nature of this criterion, or like what this challenge is based upon. The premise of this challenge is that something is, you know, more eloquent, more beautiful. How do you judge that? That's what Shaddy Nasser is getting at here. He's saying this is something that's subjective, that there's no objective criterion. And I've seen videos on from Muslims where they try to prove this is an objective way of doing it, and maybe one day we can get into those videos. It's really funny, but there's no objective way about going about proving, you know, this song is better than that song, or this poetry is better than that poetry. Same thing with anything with beauty or aesthetics or anything like that. It's like, you know, there's the famous saying, like, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or and you know, so it's like that applies here. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So something that might be beautiful to me might not be beautiful to you two sisters. So there's no way to go about objectively proving this. So imagine now this is the problem when it comes to Islam, because this is supposed to be God setting out this challenge, right? How is it that God is going to set out a challenge that isn't even objective? It's just based on people's personal opinions. And then there are other problems, like who judges this challenge? I mean, is the challenge for us humans? We're supposed to put God's word to test, and we're supposed to challenge. Like, who's going to judge? Are Muslims going to judge? Are atheists going to judge? Like, who's supposed to be judging this challenge? Again, the Quran is so vague on this. And yeah, that's all I have to say so far.
Daughter of Christ, anything you want to add, sister?
No, I think that was perfect.
Okay, let's continue then. So we've got 17 more minutes to go.
People back in the days and even recently that they try to emulate the style of the Quran. Of course, if you are, you know, holding this text as the perfect example of eloquence, you are going to downplay any attempt, right, to emulate it. So at the end of the day, it's very difficult to be subjective in matters of literary taste, to say that, oh, this text is more eloquent than this because I feel it. First point, let's talk about memory and memorization. So our problem or our issue here is the accurate part. It's not the memorization part. We don't question the fact that Arabs or Muslims do memorize the texts. We question the accuracy, like to what extent. The 70 people who were killed at the battle that you were mentioning, right? Abu Bakr, when he wanted to collect the Quran, why the first account of the collection? So why did people, according to the tradition, Muslims or the companions of the Prophet, you know, they memorized the Quran, okay, most of it. And then there was the apostasy wars, okay, during Abu Bakr's time. According to the account, 70 of these people, of these memorizers of the Quran, they died. And then the account says, well, because they were afraid that those people who memorized the Quran are dying and then the Quran would be lost, so he, you know, suggested, let us collect it so that it's not going to be lost, okay? Now, there are issues with this, you know, with this tradition. One of the questions that, you know, researchers ask is that, what do we know about these 70 people who died in the battle? We don't have their names, okay? Why would you send 70 reciters of the Quran to fight in a battle? We don't have a full list of the names of these people. We also have other accounts in other traditions that the Prophet would send readers, the word qurra, to fight. A question that was raised by a couple of scholars is that why would you send Quran reciters to fight? And then what happened is that they assigned one of the younger companions, his name is Zayd, and then they told him, well, you are young, you're energetic, why don't you start collecting the Quran? And then he said, how could I do something that the Prophet didn't do? So that's another question. How could we do something that the Prophet didn't do? Meaning that if the Prophet didn't collect the Quran, why should we collect it? Again,
Okay, let's pause here. We listened quite lots of things. Who wants to go first and make a comment until I put the Sahih Bukhari 509 on the screen?
I feel like saying what you were saying to Abbas the other day. Give me the names. Give me the names. Those 70 Qur'an, the 70 reciters or memorizers of the Quran. Who are they, sister? Do you know? Oh, brother Jai?
I don't know.
Yeah, we don't know, and this is an excellent question. Why would you send these reciters out into a battle? Why would these be your warriors that you're sending out into battle? I think he asked a good question, and
I
he
know
said this is
the answer. I know the answer.
okay. Go ahead.
Because Muhammad cared more about battle than if the Quran is ever preserved or collected. That's the truth.
Yeah, in
Okay.
this occasion it's Abu Bakr, yeah. So Abu Bakr is sending, like, they've got lots of people. Why would you send the ones who memorize the Quran versus were they the only, like, not only good at memorizing Quran, but also they were good fighters who died on the battle, by the way.
But Shaddy Nasser said Muhammad as well, sister, not just Abu Bakr. He said the Quran out to fight.
Yeah.
He did say that. So, yeah, it's because battle is more important.
I mean, here's another option. Possibly, they were thinking that the Quran teaches. It says that that Allah is going to be the one that preserves the dhikr. If we say the dhikr includes the Quran, the reminder include. So Allah is going to be preserving the Quran. Let's say maybe they thought that if they were going to be going out into battle as reciters of the Quran or memorizers of the Quran, Allah would keep His word. Right? Maybe
And
that's what they were
what
thinking.
happened? What happened? They all got slaughtered.
They all got
So Allah,
it didn't really work. Allah's preservation didn't really work. At least the way they were trying to. If they were going that way,
that's
it wasn't.
And then they thought, we need to take matters into our own hands. The 70 that we sent, they died. So let's collect this thing before we all die.
Abu Bakr had it. He's like, okay, forget Allah. I need to preserve the Quran.
Yeah.
In this occasion, sorry, I'm trying to get rid of this picture now. In this occasion, Hadith says, as one person, 70 people died. Hadith doesn't give us the number. Tradition gives us the number. As 70 people died in the battle, suddenly Muslims were afraid that they are losing the Quran. So what are we going to do? That's why they practice the first Bida and then puts the Quran together. I am trying to put this on the screen in a nice way so that people can read it. So this is the Bukhari account for 509. It is the first completion of the Quran under the Abu Bakr. That's the part. So send for me when the people of Yamama had been killed and found Umar is coming to him and then telling, oh Umar, let's compile the Quran. Why? Because I am afraid that as more people, I am afraid that more heavy casualties may take place among the Qur'an. So in this occasion, like, kind of interpretation has been people who memorize the Quran, when they die, we are going to lose a large part of the Quran. So a large part of the Quran may be lost. 70 people are dying, and then suddenly Muslims are, we are we are going to lose Quran in a large portion. Allah's supposed to protect the Quran, then why are they afraid that they are going to lose large part? And last week we were talking about that Allah opens the chest of chest of individuals to come to the idea, yeah, let's put the Quran together. That's the first account which Shaddy Nasser is speaking about. And he's correct that we don't know who were those people who memorized the Quran. We don't even have the names of people when Muslim says, oh, thousands memorize the Quran, all that. We don't even have those names. There are, I think, just over 30 names is being put together. What was that guy who died recently? Mustafa? I've got his book. The Muslim scholar who died recently, he gives just approximately 30 names that who memorized the Quran at the time of Muhammad. But those names just came to us like much, much later. And there are big question names on that. Questions on those. Anyone wants to add anything?
No, you can continue, sister.
Jai?
Yeah. Yeah. I think you can continue too. I'm all set with any comments.
Okay, I'm just trying to look at the name of the Muslim scholar.
Okay. But yeah, so I guess I will say something just so we don't as we're waiting, sisters. So basically, the idea this is one of the standard narrative myths that the Quran was mass transmitted amongst the early Muslims, was mass memorized, and yeah, we see that this has holes in it. Go ahead, sister.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm back. Sorry, I forgot his name. Mustafa Sami. In his book, he gives us approximately 30 names and tells, oh, those are the people who memorized the Quran at the time of Muhammad. But just he comes up with those names. There is nothing like we can go back and then read. It says, oh, Muhammad taught whole Quran to this gentleman. Muhammad taught whole Quran to this gentleman. Nothing is up there. Anyway, okay, let's continue.
Good question, and we don't have a clear answer. This companion Zaid, he was saying, well, how dare we do something that the Prophet didn't do? And then it raises the question about the Quran. What is it? Is it should it be just an oral text? Should it be just selections of recitations? Should it be really a standardized canonized book? Prophet didn't die suddenly. Okay, he was 63, 64 years old. According to tradition, he predicted his death, or he knew he was dying. He could have said, okay, I'm going to collect the Quran and make a final version of it before I die. Why didn't he do that if it's important to have it written down? Okay, so Zayd, he went around and then he started asking, other companions, okay, tell me what you memorized. And then he started writing them down. At the end, according to one narrative, so Abu Bakr, they put the collection in front of him. And then he said, what should we call it? It tells you about how people were thinking back then. So he says, what should we call it? One answer, he said, why don't we call it, let's call it the Torah, or let's call it the scripture, or Injil. And then he said, no, this is what the Jews call their scripture.
Right.
We don't want to call it the same. And then someone suggested that, okay, so why don't we call it Mus'haf, Codex? This is what they call it in Ethiopia, right? And they said, okay, so that's a good, so let's call it a Mus'haf. They didn't even call it Quran. They call it Mus'haf. The Codex, the reality of the Codex is very different from the reality of the recited text. Back to the issues, or this.
Okay, let's pause here for a second. We did look at this hadith deeper last week on how actually Zayd didn't want to write the Quran down because it was hard work for him. He had to go and search for it. Not like that means he didn't even know who were the people who memorized the Quran or who had written it down. He had to go and search for it. and he didn't want to do it because this is something Muhammad didn't do. From 610 to 632, 22 years, Muhammad didn't even think to put the Quran together. Argument could be, oh, because revelation was coming, but when he got poisoned, that could be the time, okay, now maybe let's put some effort in this and then let's compile it. But in his last days or last years, he was like very ill for 3 years. He didn't even do that. Why?
Yeah, that's a good question. And so then I think, what did we count? 3 times where this question was asked about. Remember, between the hadiths we were reading last week, there were like, I think this question came up about 3 times. Where how can I do something that Allah's messenger didn't even do? How can I do something that he didn't even do? So now they're caught, or they see the problem here. They're doing this innovation of doing things that Muhammad didn't even do, and they see this as problematic. So you're right, that could have solved a lot of problems if he did that.
What was he busy with? Thought of Christ. Have you got any ideas?
Well, sister, he had 13 wives to start with. He need to go all of them in one night. He had lots of wars that lots of enemies that he needed to kill. Sister, it just goes to show that he didn't care. Muhammad was very short-sighted. The real reason, sister, is because he knew he was a fraud. He was doing all this for power, money, and women, and he didn't care what happened after he died, right? Because he was just using it as means to an end. If not, then he should have said, after I die, it's very important that you remember this, Allah's words. Start writing them down, start compiling them, finish the Mus'haf. Let's call it Mus'haf. This is what Allah wants you to call it, whatever. Don't go to the Ethiopia to give it a name. Yeah, call it that. Put the verses here. This would have been very easy, sister, because we know the companions, they differed. They had lots of arguments. Where should we put the verse here, here, or here? What are the last verses that are in the Quran? Some people say this, some people that. It would have been easy because they would have had access to the Prophet. Where should we put this verse, Prophet? And he would have just told them. But this didn't happen because Muhammad didn't care, sister. He had other things to worry about, and one of those things was not the word of his Allah.
And another point kind of comes to my mind is, like, their concern is, we want to be different from Jews and Christians. We can't take, even like as they name the book, or we can't use that name because that name is being used by Jews. Why we are introducing new religion, new God, new prophet, therefore let's put everything like brand new, start brand new thing. You don't want, yeah. Something is fishy over there, but anyway. Jay,
Yeah,
anything
it
to
could
add?
have solved. Yeah, it could have solved many problems, like your sisters are pointing out. But yeah, just to summarize a few of them again, if Muhammad were to do this process himself, one, they would actually have the name of the book, right? They would have the name of it. Do you call it a Mus'haf? Do you call it a Quran? What do you call it? The Torah? Do you call it the Injil? Right? They don't even know what name do they call it. Then they could have agreed on the number of chapters, right? Like you said, they could have agreed on the number of chapters. A number, like, is this considered to be a prayer, or is this considered to be a chapter of the Quran? Is this the word of God, or is this just a prayer? He could have, confirmed the last 2 verses in chapter 9, right? Whether those are actually part of the Quran or not, which, as you've shown, there are translations of the Quran today that do not have those 2 verses in it. So yeah, so many things could have been solved by this if he were to compile the Quran in this way, or if he were to be the one to start this project and get Muslims started, at least, and kind of
Oh
give them
yeah,
an outline of what to do. Yeah,
and they wouldn't have needed 2 witnesses for each verse. Like Abbas wouldn't have needed to go and get all the names for them because you would have just had
exactly.
We are
the
still waiting
Muhammad
though.
telling you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we are
2
still waiting.
yeah, we wouldn't
Abbas
have
wouldn't
needed
need 2
to wait.
names, right? Yeah,
He would have just said, Prophet said it. That would have been the end of it. But
yeah.
he's in this problem because his prophet died before he did the one thing that he should have done.
he
Mm-hmm.
he was killed before he did that. But he had enough time of suffering to put that together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue. Start. Stopped.
Discrepancies. So this account, their scripture.
Right.
We don't want to call it the same. And then someone suggested that, okay, so why don't we call it Mus'haf, Codex? This is what they call it in Ethiopia, right? And they say, okay, so that's a good. So let's call it a Mus'haf. They didn't even call it Quran. They call it Mus'haf. The Codex, the reality of the Codex is very different from the reality of the recited text. Back to the issues or discrepancies. So this account has certain discrepancies with some other accounts. So we have other accounts that said that the Prophet had scribes, and whenever he received revelations, he would ask the scribes to write them down. But then the question is, if we already have so many accounts about the Prophet making certain kind of arrangements or a certain, if you want, personal collections, so what was the purpose of this first collection?
Mm-hmm.
Why did the head of the committee why did he go around and started asking other companions about verses that they memorized, or looking for things written on leaves of trees and camel shoulders and flat stones?
Yep.
This is the narrative, right? If the Prophet already had scribes and he had already instructed them to write certain chapters down. It's not like people were always, everyone believed in Muhammad. No, there were people who didn't believe in him. And they were saying that you are a false prophet. And, the Quran is plagiarized from other sources. The Quran itself says that on multiple occasions, not only once.
Okay.
Yeah.
While Allah steps in to defend that Muhammad is not a liar, people thought he was a liar. Yes,
Yeah.
Muhammad had people who were writing things down for him. Then why Zayd bin Thabit needed to go and search for those things?
I love Shaddy Nasser because he's so intelligent and logical, sister.
Which Allah doesn't
Yeah,
like that much.
exactly. So these are very reliable traditions that he's quoting about things being written down. I have a theory, sister, because the scribes that Muhammad had always apostatized. We've got Abdullah ibn Abi Sarh. He apostatized when when Muhammad borrowed one of his verses. Remember?
Oh yeah, I remember
The
that.
one with the embryo. And then he had to run away because Muhammad wanted to kill him. And then the other scribe, the new employee, he also apostatized because Muhammad was telling him, write Allah the most generous, the most exalted. Sometimes actually no, write Allah the most forgiving, the most merciful. And he would sometimes ask, which one shall I write? Muhammad said, write whatever you like. He also apostatized and ran away. So I think that position, that position of scribe was, sister, he didn't have stable scribes. Maybe that's why. What do you think, sister and brother?
Yeah, and the point that Shad Nasser makes at the end there about the Quran talking about people accusing him of copying legends of old, he's right. This is repeated time and time again in the Quran. And someone actually in the live chat earlier on in chapter 8 verse 31, in chapter 8 verse 31 in the Quran, it says it's quoting the pagan, the Quraysh, the Arab unbelievers, let's say, at Muhammad's time, and they're saying that if they wanted to create something like the Quran, they could. So this whole idea that they were intimidated and they couldn't produce something like it, like the eloquence is so great, or the Arabic is so magnificent, the beauty is just beyond measure. And this whole challenge that it's set forth, they were saying if we wanted to do it, we could. It just seems like they didn't want to do it. They weren't impressed enough to do it. They didn't care to do it. But yes, they accused and they said, these are just stories from old. You're just taking stories from old. And one of these verses in the Quran, it actually says that Muhammad was writing down. He was writing down these stories of old. These basically fabricating things. So they're actually accusing Muhammad of writing things down. So that gets to the question of whether he was illiterate or not and all these other things. But the point of, these legends and fables, yes, this is an accusation that people said back then, and we're still saying it today, because we can show these stories that the Quran is stealing from these works of poetry, works from these different religions, and yeah, all sorts of things.
So in the book by Mustafa Zami, in his book, he gives you a list of scribes Muhammad had for him to write the Quran down. Okay, so you've got names, and then apparently those names enter the Islamic tradition much later. But anyway, let's say, sake of the argument, those are the people who memorize the Quran or who write the Quran down as Muhammad passed it on them. In this list, how would you feel if I tell you Abu Bakr is in this list? Abu Bakr was apparently one of the scribes of Muhammad.
Wow.
And that's the Abu Bakr who is forcing Zayd bin Thabit to go and search the Quran and write the Quran down.
So what happened to his...
Yeah, it feels
copy?
like that's the problem. Like those names just enters Islamic tradition much later. If he already was a scribe, and Zayd bin Thabit was apparently scribe as well, they could simply say, okay, look, we've got already your writings and my writings, and then we've got your writings and my writings. Let's compare them and then make them in one Quran. We don't need 70 people who died in the battle. But no, Zayd bin Thabit needed to go and search for what was revealed. And then, yeah, in this list, you've got the guy who apostate, who become apostate as well. So it's just like lots of holes in the even scribes of Muhammad. That's like kind of problem by itself. Anything else we need to mention in that part?
Not from me.
No.
Yeah, I'm all set here too.
Okay, let's continue.
And then the Quran responds, no, it is not. It is a revelation from God. If you don't have a manuscript, it's like, okay, well, I don't trust what's happening, in the 6th century or the 7th century. And, you are entitled, to, of course, to do that. If you don't have a manuscript of the Quran from the 7th century, well, okay, why do I have to trust what a person told me 200 years later? To be fair, okay, so let's say that from a objective, point of view,
Right.
there's no evidence whatsoever to really confirm that the Quran that you have right now, okay, came from the mouth of the Prophet. Okay, there are.
Did you all hear that, or I heard by mistake?
It's amazing, isn't
Yeah.
it, Hadi?
Wow.
So there is no evidence that out there that we can say the Quran Muslims are reading today came from mouth of Muhammad.
He said no evidence whatsoever. Not even a little bit.
That's like a mic drop moment. Like, how can we add to that?
Any Muslims in the chat?
Okay, let's be kind enough and then listen that again so that we don't misunderstand. My English is awful, so I maybe misunderstood it. Let's go for it again.
Are entitled, to, of course, to do that. If you don't have a manuscript of the Quran from the 7th century, well, okay, why do I have to trust what a person told me 200 years later? To be fair, okay, so let's say that from a objective, point of view,
Right.
there's no evidence whatsoever to really confirm that the Quran that you have right now, okay, came from the mouth of the Prophet. Okay, there are, yes, problems and words and variants, pronunciations, etc. And some variants, they have different meanings. There are different numbers of verses from one, codex to another. We have more serious problems in even words that do not have variants that were and still are interpreted differently.
Okay, let's pause here. So I heard it correctly. There is
Yeah, you heard it correctly.
Yeah. So let's repeat that again. Daughter of Christ?
To be objective, to be fair, he said, there is no evidence whatsoever to confirm that the Quran we have today came from the mouth of the Prophet.
Yep. Okay.
By the way, I see we have someone named Halib in the live chat. They're spamming. I know you don't appreciate the spamming, but the question they're asking is, challenging what we're saying, and they're saying, why is it that the Quran has 100% no Arabic grammatical error, and it's the best piece of work on Arabic literature?
That's just so
So,
funny. Bless your heart.
so I guess that's in response to what we were saying earlier before we get to this kind of mic drop moment from Shaddy Nasser saying there's no evidence whatsoever that the Quran came from the mouth of Muhammad. But yeah, that's if you want to respond to that comment, sisters, from Halib.
It doesn't matter, Halib. It could be 100%, 200% correct. Shadi Nasser just said it. There's no evidence it came from Muhammad. So you could be following, I don't know, Picasso or somebody else. Who knows?
Shakespeare.
Yeah.
Shakespeare, any Arab poet of any kind. It doesn't matter.
And when we talk about, sorry, sister, go ahead.
No, go on, brother.
Okay, when we talk about grammatical errors, I know we can dedicate entire streams to this. But when we're talking about grammatical errors and the Arabic language, there are even different schools of thought within Arabic grammar. There would have like these competing schools, let's say, of grammar, and they would debate each other over what's grammatically correct or what's not grammatically correct. So depending on which school you think is correct, maybe the Quran is correct according to one school, but it's not correct according to the other school. If we just go to, so that's one issue. So determining what is Arabic grammar, what is Arabic grammar? If we're talking about today's Arabic grammar, the way that it's taught in schools today, then we can definitely show many grammatical errors in the Quran based on today's standards. If we want to go to the Quranic times, or let's say the companions, supposedly, let's say, of Muhammad, and these early commentaries of the Quran, oftentimes the commentators would point out things that were grammatical errors. In fact, in that deleted interview between Yasir Qadhi and Muhammad Hijab said that the problem in grammar, he would say that sometimes the ancients would speak about the grammatical problems in the Quran. So this is a known issue in Islamic studies, where the commentators would say that there were some grammatical issues with this particular verse. Just to give one example, there's a narration of Aisha. Okay, Aisha is saying that the error that I think there's about 4 verses that are mentioned, and she says that this error is due to the scribe, basically. But the problem is that the way that the scribe wrote it down is exactly the way Muslims recite it today. So if the scribe made a grammatical error, that's the same Quran that Muslims are reciting today. And I can get the reference. So I'll send you the reference, sister. We can show this on the screen if you want.
That's fine. What I was gonna offer is, Mr. Muslim, while we just heard from a scholar that actually Quran has nothing to do with Muhammad, if you are so confident that there is no grammatical error in a book which has nothing even to do with Muhammad, you are probably, we can set up another live stream. You can call in and then you can make your case, and then I will have probably Arabic speakers. They will make a case. I've got like huge PowerPoints just to show actually how Arabic fails the Quran. And then it's not only me actually. We do have a short video on DCCI where Shaddy Nasser is expressing how grammarians, the people who study grammar thing, they were struggling to make sense of the Quran. They were expressing, oh, that doesn't work, how we are going to make sense of it. We can simply offer you to call in one of the open Skype night, and then we can simply look at the failed grammar of the Quran.
Yeah, just one other comment. I don't know if this caught your eye, sister, daughter, as well, but someone is saying that you do not understand Arabic.
Yeah, we just read your comment in Arabic.
Oh, I missed that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, he's writing
He
in
wrote it
Arabic
in
saying
Arabic.
he's
And
saying he speaks
yeah,
Arabic and we don't.
Is that
Yeah,
is
we
yeah.
that
just wrote it.
okay? Is that the one? There was just a moment. Something appeared in a color. Is this like kind of written to Muhammad Jola? Is that one?
Yeah, that's him.
It's the one above that. It's written by him. So he wrote something, and then one of the brothers responded to him in
Okay,
the
he wrote
text.
in Arabic to say like, okay, you don't understand Arabic.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we
exactly.
just read it in Arabic, so
Okay.
So we can show you the reference in. Let's say that we don't know any Arabic at all, right? Let's say we don't know any Arabic. Yeah, this is the commentary. But we can show you the commentary in Arabic, where Aisha herself in Arabic is saying that this is a
yeah.
grammatical error. So
And also
okay,
Uthman ibn Affan also said that in the Quran there is an error. There are errors that the Arabs will change with their tongues. He said في القرآن لحن ستقيمه العرب بألسنتهم. He said that in the Quran there are grammatical errors that the Arabs will change with their tongues. And that's also, I think, brother, from the
exactly.
commentary that you bring. I think it's Al-Tabari.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh yeah. Let me send the. I'm just gonna send it on Skype
Yeah.
here. So this
Um,
is the.
my
But
Skype
it,
I mean,
is
we don't have to show. Like you said, we
you
can
have to do
dedicate
it
an entire
now,
stream
but
to this
yeah,
topic.
my
But yeah,
Skype is off. So one of the things we can do is we will have another live stream to just talk about that. Is that okay?
okay.
of course.
Yeah, fine by me.
Okay, but Mr. Muslim, just be confident when you call into the live stream or when we handle this topic. Please make sure you come with proper rebuttals instead of like, oh, that doesn't mean that. Oh, you don't understand Arabic. Just do a little bit homework. Do a little bit homework, and then come. Hopefully, we can have a discussion. I think we can do that some time in next week.
Yeah.
Okay, let's continue.
Okay.
They give different interpretations of the Prophet. Okay, there are, yes, problems and words and variants, pronunciations, etc. And some variants, they have different meanings. There are different numbers of verses from one codex to another. We have more serious problems in even words that do not have variants that were and still are interpreted differently, that they give different interpretations, even though that they don't have any variations. The eternal struggle, between different groups in, of Islamic, faith is the attributes of God. Okay, does God have a hand? Does he have a throne? Okay, does he speak? And this is a huge split between different factions, that one faction would lead to consider the other factions blasphemous. If you say that God has a real hand, you are not a Muslim. And the other group is that, what do you mean that this is metaphorical? You can't just say that this is metaphorical. So what about this? Is also prayer metaphorical? Is fasting metaphorical? So where do you draw the line between what is metaphorical and what is not? Is the Quran eternal? If he spoke the Quran, so is the Quran also, I don't know if you hear that, created or not created? Is it one of the attributes of God? Does it subside in him, or is it outside of him? It's very complicated theological topic that also Muslims from time immemorial until today, they never agreed on. And I'm not saying about small factions. I'm saying about, the majority of Muslims. Yeah, big two factions within Sunni Islam, not even considering outside Sunni Islam, right?
So let's pause here for a second. I guess he's overall making a point regarding, okay, so you've got different Qurans with textual variations in it, with like the text which is different from one another. That's not actually that kind of big deal, but there is a much bigger deal on sifats. What is
Attributes?
attributes? Yeah,
The attributes.
yes. Sorry,
Yeah.
attributes of Allah. Are they part of Allah? Are they kind of just a metaphor? Are they real? That is a big problem which is dividing Muslim world today. Any comments, brothers and sisters?
Yeah, for Muslim apologist dawah gangs who always use the excuse metaphorical. This is for you. And not everything is metaphorical. Like, where do you draw the line? How do you know something is metaphorical or not? If that's the case, then your holy religion is metaphorical. Your prayer is metaphorical. Your fasting is metaphorical. This is coming from your own Shadi Nasser. And also, sister, I love the fact that he's saying, why are you focusing on the variants? Even the verses that people agree on, it's still massive splits within Islam, sister. Even he's saying with even Sunni Islam on how big things like how God is regarded, attributes of God. They can't even agree on that. Go on.
Exactly. And again he's talking about within Sunni Islam, so like you have like the Athari, Salafi, Hanbali, like, so like does God have physical, not physical, does God, are they metaphorical parts or not, then you have the Ash'ari, Maturidi, and like this is the huge debate within Sunni Islam. He's not even talking about like what do the Shia believe, or historically the Mu'taziliya and all of these other groups. He's not talking about them. He's talking about within Sunni Islam today. Like they all agree on these verses, right? And by the way, this is another point though. The variant readings do actually have an effect on different legal rulings.
Yeah.
So that is an issue as well. So sometimes the variant readings do affect legal rulings in Islam, again within Sunni Islam. So even when they agree on things, like they all agree on the verse that says that Allah is above His throne, let's say, then they disagree. Is it a literal throne, or is it a metaphorical throne? They all agree that the verse says that Allah created Adam with His own two hands. But is it literal two hands or is it metaphorical two hands? They don't agree on that. So it's a good question. Good point.
And also there are some differences between Qurans which actually change your application or the way you live your Muslim life. Like when do you need to do wudu, when do you need to do ghusl, it all changes the way how you are reading that verse. That's Surah 4, and also you've got the similar thing in Surah 5. Okay, let's continue.
The Quran also, I don't know if you hear that, created or not created. Is it one of the attributes of God? Does it subside in Him, or is it outside of Him? It's very complicated theological topic that also Muslims from time immemorial until today, they never agreed on. And I'm not saying about small factions. I'm saying about, the majority of Muslims. You have big two factions within Sunni Islam, not even considering outside Sunni Islam, right? So the main problems with variants is that you have the text, which was unvoweled, as you said, no Masoretic version of the Quran. Did the non-existence of vowels cause the variant readings or not, right? Now, definitely, of course, this was a factor, okay? If you have a perfectly vowel text, people would read the same, right? Mm-hmm. But the issue is this, people back then, they didn't have vowels. The vowels didn't exist, okay? And this was the script that, people used. So it's their language. So let's say now, I don't know, I give you a sentence in English and I take the E's and A's and U's and O's from it. To what extent are you going to get the sentence right? That being said, there are several passages in the Quran which are ambiguous. And everyone knows that. And the Quran itself says that there are passages which are ambiguous in the text. There are many variants which have to do with using different verb stems. Some of these, many of these readings, they have to do actually with who's doing the action. Is it an active? Is it passive? Is God doing that? Or is it someone else doing that? Plural, singular, okay? What else? Pronouns. I would say more than 50% or 60% of the variants, these are even the standard variants, that they have nothing to do with dialects or pronunciation. So a theological problem, for the variants is...
Let's pause here for a second. I'm not sure if that was middle of the topic or what. No, anyway, we paused it. Anyone wants to make any comment?
So much gold, sister.
Okay, yeah.
Go on, brother. Go on, brother.
Oh, sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to. I was waiting for you to. You can go, sister or daughter. Go ahead.
Okay, ladies first.
Okay. Yeah, I was just saying so much gold. Yeah, did you hear what he just said? Another mic drop moment. 50 to 60% of those variations, nothing to do with pronunciation or dialects. It's to do with who's doing the action. Is it God who's doing it or someone else? Sister, this is really important. I want to know if in the book of Allah, if Allah's doing something in that verse or somebody else is doing it. That's pretty important.
Yeah,
It's
like the verse that you guys bring out, like the amazed. Like, are you amazed, or is Muhammad amazed, or is Allah amazed? That's an example of that.
yeah, because otherwise, how do I know who's doing anything? And did you see what he said, sister? In the clear book that is the Quran itself says this ambiguous. Now that's a contradiction within a contradiction. Like Allah promises the Quran is a clear book, and in then another verse, that's Surah 3, verse 5, it says there are ambiguous verses, and only Allah knows the interpretation of those verses. Can I ask you and Brother Jai something? What is the point of sending something that only you know the interpretation of?
It's a good question.
It's like
I
sending
don't know.
me sending. It's like me sending you or Sister Hatun a letter. Only I know what's in the letter.
Yeah,
So what's the point?
yeah. Or one of us speaks in another language that no one else can understand. None of the viewers can understand. What's the point of that? What's the benefit if only you can understand it?
Yeah, it's like saying, okay, in this letter, there's a little bit of Turkish verses that only I understand, but I'm sending it to you anyway.
It's a
It's
good
funny.
question.
Go on.
It's a good question. Sister Hartoon, did you want to comment or?
I remember I did ask that in beginning of some surahs you've got those letters no one knows but only Allah knows meaning. I remember I used to ask what, like, if Quran is well explained, well detailed, what does those letters means, and then it was all Allah knows best, Allah knows. So I didn't get I didn't get any answer which I was satisfied.
We got an answer in the chat, Isaac. He says to show you're smart. So Allah wanted to show he's clever by sending something no one can understand.
Like if
But
you look,
how do we know? If we can't understand, how can we measure his intelligence if no one can understand?
Because if you can't understand it, it must mean that it's so, I don't know, complicated.
or it is
Well,
so
it could be
stupid that
something.
it doesn't make any sense. You just don't understand. Either way.
Yeah. I just wanted to comment on one of the points that he made about the vowels, even though, like he said, like some of the time these variants don't even. Well, the example he gave with like if you were speaking English without vowels, or you to write something down. So if we just have two letters like B T, just two letters B T, and that's, imagine we don't write English with vowels, so you just have B and T. You could fill that with so many different potential vowels. You could put an A in there, make it bat. You can put an O, make it bots. You can do OA, make it boat, because those are two vowels. So there's so many different variations. Just like in Arabic, when you don't have the dotting on the letters, forget about the vowels. There aren't even dots on the letters to distinguish the letters. So the letter N could be read like the letter E. So like the word bint could be like bait, like daughter or house. That's completely indistinguishable. You can't distinguish between those two. There's no distinction in the way the Quran was originally written. And one Muslim scholar, Ibn Khaldun, which is he's called like the father of anthropology. He's big Muslims. I mean, if you're not Muslim, you know this name. Even if you don't know about Islam or anything, he's recognized in other fields, other sciences or whatever. He said that the Arabic script, the Ottomanic script, was so defective. It was so defective that it created this possibility for these many different mistakes to be made, because it's a defective script. It doesn't have the way that Arabic was originally written, didn't have the vowels or the way to distinguish between certain letters.
And it goes to show that Allah made a terrible choice of choosing Arabic at that time as a language to reveal his word. He promises that his word will be perfectly preserved, and he says he will choose the best language to send it. And then he chooses a language that at the time didn't have any vowels in the way it's written, to make sure that those people will fill in the vowels, making different words, ensuring the fact that it will never be preserved, and for all those variants to arise. That goes to show that this Allah is not a real God, and they made a stupid choice. He should have chosen a language that is it's written, the way of writing it is a bit advanced, so as to eliminate those mistakes or errors and not to make it possible.
Just also helpful, it might be helpful to remember at this stage, the Quran which Abu Bakr left to Uthman didn't have the dots, but without the dots, it was causing Muslims to call one another kafir. Without the dots, it was causing Muslims to call one another kafir. The Quran which Uthman sent out without the dots had some of the verses had different letters in it. That's like another point helpful for us to remember. And if I am correct, I've got Arabic speakers here who can correct me. The word kill in Arabic, just think the consonantal letters of that word killed. It could be meat, it could be elephant, it could be lots of things. It could be fought, like you've got lots of other options for just like same Arabic letters when you add the dots on it.
If you completely remove the dots and the vowels, you can. I think I saw one image where there was like 26 possible words for just one.
That's
just for one skeletal text.
That's one we did with the like letter letter looks like three U you put together.
Yeah, like 3 years exactly. Yeah, and
like
you can come up with
house,
like 26 or
house,
exactly.
girl,
Bait,
we put that
bint.
together. But I
exactly.
use the fight example in the intention because Surah 3 verse 146 contains textual variations from one Quran to other Quran. Without dots, you can say prophets meet, prophets met, or prophets fought, or prophets killed. What, like, it's just problem by itself anyway. That shows without the dots, it was causing problem in Islamic world. There was a comment on, as we were as Shaddy Nasser was talking about the sifats of Allah. There is a comment, are you able to see on the screen? It's about the throne of Allah.
Allah told us regarding some matters are mutashabihat, ambiguous, especially the unseen ones like throne of Allah, etc. We Muslims try to explain according to our perceptions.
So that verse, does that verse say, especially the unseen ones like the throne of Allah? Does it say that? Or
No, it
is he
doesn't.
adding that in? Or is he adding that in
He's
there?
trying to help. He's trying to help Allah because Allah is so ambiguous. He didn't tell them what the ambiguous verses were.
So wait, so sister, you're telling me that the verse that's giving us a distinction between clear and unclear verses is actually unclear? Is that what you're saying?
Otherwise, please, Mr. Muslim, tell us which verses in the Quran, list them to us, references are unclear, and which verses are clear, and what's your evidence for it, please?
Yeah, if you think about the throne of Allah, that's something I'm a bit confused why there are so much debates about it, because when you look at the Islam, it talks about like throne of Allah is physical, which is being carried by angels, and even like they grab the throne of Allah. Like I can't remember, it's Moses, I think. Moses grabs the throne of Allah, and even there is a writing on the throne of Allah. So just if you are Mr. Muslim, dear Mr. Muslim, work on your arguments. Nothing personal in this occasion. That just needs some. If you
I
need
feel
help,
sorry.
just let us know.
I feel sorry for them because they say we Muslims try to explain according to our own perceptions.
So what's wrong with Allah?
So they're basically trying to, stumble in the dark, trying to find out what on earth this book means. Maybe it means this. One person's perception is this. One person's perception is this. Allah knows best. Man, this is a pitiful, pitiful state you're in, that Allah put you in. He should have just explained everything. Especially that in another verse he says, in مفصلا لكل شيء, in it is the explanation for everything.
Yeah.
But in another verse it says there are some ambiguous. So
Which one?
why is Allah contradicting himself?
Right. And actually the reason for why that verse is revealed, if we go to the reason for revelation, Asbab al-Nuzul, it tells us that the reason why this specific verse was revealed is because the Christians of Najran were challenging Muhammad on statements that he was making, verses that are part of the Quran, saying things that Jesus is a spirit from God and he's the word of God. And they were saying that this, if you understand what word of God means, I'm paraphrasing. They're saying if you know understand what word of God means, that you understand that this makes Jesus God. And so then all of a sudden Muhammad got this verse coming down very conveniently, and I'm just, this is the very short summary of the story. If we go into it in greater detail, you'll see that it's like a cover-up story because he couldn't answer, he was cornered. And so this is supposed to answer basically that chapter 4 verse 157, where it says that Jesus is the word of God, his word, and spirit from him. And because Muhammad, when he was challenged on that, all of a sudden he gets this passage as well, there are some clear verses and some unclear verses. Oh, how convenient. So
Yeah,
when
I
you're
think,
challenged, yeah.
yeah, brother, I think I'm having a new project of becoming a false prophet myself. I'm gonna take notes. Anyone asks me a question that I don't know, I'm just gonna say, you know what? There are some clear revelations and there are some not clear. I'm gonna put this in the unclear file for you to
Yeah.
work out according to your own perception when you follow my religion. I'm gonna make notes.
Or, this seems like a contradiction. Well, when we, it's unclear, clear, we don't know. It's
Yeah, it's
yeah.
mutashabihat. Put it in the mutashabihat file
Yeah.
and just get on with it.
Yeah.
Remember the story where Muhammad goes to Mecca to conquer Mecca, to do Hajj. Everyone is like prepared, ready. They shave, they took all the things to sacrificing all those things, and then they can't enter. And then Umar questions Muhammad, and then Muhammad says, "Because we didn't say Inshallah." And then they all goes back, and then the verse comes because he didn't say Inshallah.
It's the same the same Muslim is feeling so insecure. He's going after our Bibles.
I saw that comment too. Yeah.
Well,
You
He's
notice when
asking.
they can't defend.
Yeah, they
Go
go
ahead,
to
sorry.
our. This is not mutashabihat, three idiots. I wonder why you call yourself three idiots. He's saying, we don't know if Jesus is divine or not. Brother and sister and myself, is Jesus divine or not? Let's say all together.
he's
The answer.
divine
Yes.
God.
Yes.
He is the
Yes. It's not
Okay.
mutashabihat.
Yes.
It's clear.
Yeah.
Sorry, three idiots.
Even according to Quran, he's divine. Okay. Let's continue. We've got 7 more minutes of the video.
Some of these, many of these readings, they have to do actually with this, who's doing the action. Is it an active? Is it passive? Is God doing that? Or is it someone else doing that? Plural, singular, okay. What else? Pronouns. I would say more than 50% or 60% of the variants, these are even the standard variants, that they have nothing to do with dialects or pronunciation. So a theological problem, for the variants is, what is the intention? Okay, what does the verse really say? If the meaning changes, but even if the meaning doesn't change, how did the prophet receive his revelation? Did he receive it in, this reading or the second one or the third one? Also, theologians were struggling with this issue. Okay, so what does it mean that several companions of the prophet, they were reciting verses that they are significantly different from the standardized text? It's like Muslims probably starting from from 8th century, they would refer to the standardized version as our codices or our version versus their, i.e., the people 100 years before us.
I think that needs to be break up.
Okay.
Our
So
version and their version. Our Quran and
yeah.
their Quran.
Competing Qurans. And this kind of brings us back to Ibn Mujahid and Ibn Shanabuth, where they have, you know, this conflict where Ibn Shanabuth doesn't reject the canons of Ibn Mujahid at first, and then, you know, he's brought to prison or in jail. He's whipped, he's beaten, and he's forced to repent. But he was saying, well, the version of the Quran that I'm reading, and it has this chain of narration back to Muhammad, and he recited it like this, and this companion to this, all the same way that Ibn Mujahid would try to go about proving it. He would say, no, I have one that reads like this, and this goes back to Muhammad. That's how he read it. So I don't reject how you're reading it. I don't reject that, or maybe I don't accept just those 7 readings you have. So this whole, you know, competing Qurans, let's say, competing canons of the Quran, and then eventually, you know, the Ibn Mujahid, because he was connected with the wazir, the, what's it,
Minister.
Government?
the minister, the minister, he's connected with the minister of the government, and he's basically got this political power, and his canon rules out, and Ibn Shanabuth, he's, you know, forced to repent. You have to, you know, reject your readings, reject your Quran. You have to accept Ibn Mujahid. So because he has this political power, this political force, now imagine if it were the other way around. What if he were connected with the governor, the government, or the minister of the government? What if Ibn Shanabuth, what if the tables were turned? Would we have a very different Quran today? Yeah. So what do you guys think?
I think we would.
It's interesting, brother and sister, that he said our version and your version within just 100 years. That's a short time to be having our version and their version, because it's been 1400 years since then. So what version do we have now? And how can it be that companions of the Prophet that lived in the same time as each other and had the Prophet in their midst have different mushafs?
Yeah, same
Yeah.
story with only like 20 years after death of Muhammad, and similar story only like 2 years after the death of Muhammad. My version and your version. It's not labeled like that, but it is the same thing. People are fighting regarding which version is gonna be the all of us version.
Sisters, I'm sorry to interrupt, but according to the chatter, this isn't an insult. His name is Three Idiots. According to the chatter, Jehovah's Witnesses were debating for the first 6 centuries about the divinity of Jesus. Jehovah's Witnesses. Sorry, I
Since
just throw that in there.
sorry, sometimes my maths can be very bad. Since when they are existed?
They didn't
Yeah.
exist back then.
They're like what, like 1800s, like
Yeah.
Charles Taze Russell, like 1800s, right? So
Bad maths. 3 idiots.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think the problem is when your prophet is illiterate, I think you just get things confused. You just make things up. It's really sad to see. Please give us the evidence for what you say. Don't just pluck things out of Allah's book.
But it's not only that, like, see, this is very common thing. Quran is polemical book. Quran is there to attack faith of others. Quran is there to attack the faith of Christians as well as Lord Jesus Christ and our God. Therefore, the moment Islam kind of being in the form of questioning, what we get is rebuttal is, oh, let's question the deity of Jesus. Let's question the deity of Jesus. I think just once in your lifetime, just be man and engage well in the for the defending of your religion. There is nothing wrong. Seriously, there is nothing wrong to defend your religion. Islam never been kept accountable. Like, we are just listening. People who were not happy with what Quran's supposed to be there were ending up in prison. Just pull yourself together. Seriously, pull yourself together and then come up with proper rebuttals instead of attacking Christian faith. I think in 21st century, while there is Sheikh Google, while there is Sheikh YouTube, you can do better than your prophet. You can do better than Allah. You can do better than your prophet. Shall we continue?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I saw the comment and I kind of took us off, but yeah.
No, it's
Sorry about
fine.
that.
It's just like, this is like very simple example. You are asking Muslims to, I don't know, answer, justify what Muhammad did to Aisha. Respond is, why do you believe in Trinity or Jesus is not God? You ask Muslims to defend their sifats of Allah. They question my scripture again. You ask Muslims to justify how can Quran be one while there are like 37 different Qurans. Again, respond is attacking Christian faith. They can do better. I know Muhammad failed. Like, that's very basic. He failed. Maybe because he didn't have internet, maybe because he didn't have easy access to Allah, or maybe Allah doesn't know anything, maybe Allah is not exist, maybe Muhammad just all other things. But you've got internet. Internet is destroying Islam. From internet, okay, while it is destroying Islam, one of the things you can do is just listen to arguments and then come up with proper response which can satisfy yourself. Therefore, you can simply use that approach to engage with others. If you don't even like, if you are not even insecure about your religion, that's what you do. You are engaging in a topic actually not even our discussion tonight. I just feel that's just double heartbreaking. It's like worse than what Mayor of London is saying.
I wonder, sister, if we
Yeah.
didn't exist, if the Christians didn't exist, and the Bible didn't exist, what would Muslims do to defend their religion?
Actually, for Islam to exist, they need Christian scripture.
You
Without
need us
Christian
to
scripture,
defend your own.
no, just for it to exist. Because
Yeah.
remember why Islam comes to confirm the previous scripture.
Right.
Muhammad claimed to come from the lineage of the prophets. Muhammad claims to come and then bring the same message prophets brought, 381. For Islam to exist, Islam is desperately in need of Christian scripture. Plus, for Muslims to be able to defend Islam today, what they need is, they are so desperate to attack Christian faith. With or without Christian faith, Islam is dead, because Lord Jesus Christ is going to get into all houses, and Lord Jesus Christ is going to touch every heart, every mind, every individual, and bring everyone to on their knee. That's the bottom line. But 21st century, Tuesday, 5th of October, 2142, pull yourself together, just come up with better response. Like, I am sure if you are breathing out and in, you can do better. You meet with like criteria of everything. The moment
No, they can't do that.
the moment you are breathing out and in, you are meeting with the criteria of everything. Okay, so just come up with better answers.
In their dawah courses, sister, where they do the training, for every question about Muhammad and Quran, the answer is you don't know Arabic and the Bible says, for everything.
Actually,
That's how they pass.
there is Dawah training gathering very soon in where I am, so I am planning to attend
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. Go there, sister. I'm sure you'll pass with full marks.
I will.
I mean, they
I
might
will have
even
that.
they might even use your videos to say, when a Christian missionary says this is how you respond.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ask them about the divinity of Jesus and Jehovah's Witnesses in the first 6
Yeah.
centuries.
Yeah. Okay, let's continue.
With this issue. Okay, so what does it mean that several companions of the Prophet, they were reciting verses that they are significantly different from the standardized text? It's like Muslims probably starting from the from 8th century, they would refer to the standardized version as our codices or our version versus their, i.e., the people 100 years before us. Muslim theologians struggle to try to reconcile this issue. You know, the third caliph, Uthman, when they collected so there was the first collection, and then according to this narrative, that there was a second collection. because Muslims were reciting the Quran differently. So that's, again, probably the beginning of the variant readings. These variant readings were not issues of pronunciation or vowels. Otherwise, they would have put the vowels. They didn't have the vowels. And what he did is that the existing codices that the companions of Muhammad possessed, that he forced them from their holders, and then he burned them. He burned them, and then so that there were only one version would survive. So despite this fact, we do have there are a companion, Ibn Mas'ud, who refused to give his own codex, his own copy, to burn it, and then he kept it. What we know, again, from the sources and from archaeology, that the Kaaba is not unique. There were other Kaabas.
Okay, sorry, let's pause there. I don't know why he's talking about Kaaba, but anyway. Okay. So when the second Quran is compiled under the Uthman, where people who went to battle, Muslims were calling one another kafir, disbelievers. Shaddy Nasser simply says that is not the pronunciation or the vowel differences, because it was not existed at that stage. And then also he mentioned how Ibn Masud's Quran is being rejected, and then even we talked about it, I think last week, where his hips got broken because he didn't like the Quran of Uthman. Any comments?
Sorry, sister, about the Kaabas and all that. He was given questions, and it's the collection of his answers to things related to Islam. That's why.
Okay, that's fine. So we will come to, like, I think that will be new, like when we start the new.
Yes. Sorry, go on, Brother Jai.
Okay, so yeah, Ibn Mas'ud refused to give, like he said, he refused to give his codex. He, as Sister Tun said, we mentioned this last week, that there were companions who had different codices of the Quran, and they didn't want them to be burnt. They're like, why would you burn this? This is from Muhammad. This is what I learned from him. So they learned something very, very different than what was the standard production, or let's say the standard copy of the Quran. So yeah, that's, it's a really great point to bring out, because again, Muslims like to tell us that there's only one version of the Quran, and that it's been mass memorized and transmitted between all of these early Muslims. And these are both myths, that one, there's only one version of the Quran, and two, that it's been mass memorized and transmitted through the early Muslims.
Dot of Christ, any comments?
It just goes to show that the process of the Quran collection was not a popular process. A lot of the companions of the Prophet were against it, including Ibn Mas'ud. And there were lots of others as well who didn't want to give up their mushafs. People in the mosque stood up and said, he was inciting people not to give up their mushaf, and to keep it, for the day of judgment, to say to Allah, look, I preserved your word, type thing. But because Uthman wanted to burn them, it was forced upon the Muslim community, this collection of the Quran and burning of the other mushafs. So Muslims should not be proud of the history of the collection of the Quran, because remember Ibn Mas'ud's sister, he was one of the companions that Muhammad said that to get your Quran from, and he praised him. And so they were going against him and others, respected companions who were against this process too.
Yeah. So one person you need to take the Quran from, you are breaking his hips because he doesn't agree with the Quran you have. Doesn't say much about Islam. Yes, brother, sorry.
Sorry, this comment caught my eye. I keep doing this. You can tell me to stop if it's getting too much, but
it's fine, brother.
Okay, so there's a guy called Muhammad in the text, and he's writing in Arabic again, and he said that we're in doubt. And what's interesting is about this comment, this word doubt, shak, that he's writing to us, he's saying that we are in doubt.
Is that
actually,
oil?
Yeah, this doubt existed, according to Ubay, this doubt existed when he first started hearing these other versions of the Quran, and Muhammad told him that he received it in these 7 different ahruf, right? And he used this very word, shak. He said that this entered into his heart, and he didn't have this, and shak means doubt, and it means that this doubt entered his heart, and he didn't have so much doubt as even before the days of pre-Islamic days, Jahiliyyah. So the shak that you're talking about, the doubt that you're talking about, is actually existing in Ubay. It's existing in the Muslims when they found out that there are different versions of the Quran in Arabic.
And sister and brother, that goes against what the Quran says in the second surah.
Yeah.
لا
He
شك
told us to
فيه.
bring our proof. He said to bring our proof if we're being honest. So
Yeah, we are.
we
Your
have the
Quran.
references, we have the hadith, we have
Oh,
everything.
he wants the reference of how Ubay bin
Ubay
Ka'b
has
gets
doubt.
beaten by Muhammad. Yeah, let me get
Yeah.
that on the screen. But also, Dot of Christ bring up the surah too, where if you are in a doubt, become like if you are left without oil or something.
Yeah, the Quran says in the Surah 2, ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه. This book has no doubt. But you've got Ubay ibn Ka'b has doubt in his heart. According to Yasir Qadhi himself, he quoted that reference. When he heard another version of the Quran being recited and Muhammad saying, yeah, they're all okay, they're all good, he said a doubt came into his heart. So what happened to this book having no doubt?
Good question.
By the
And by the way,
companions during the time of Muhammad himself.
Yeah, Ubay bin
yeah.
Ka'b like literally beaten by Muhammad.
Yeah. I forgot to mention that part. Sorry about that. Yeah, he hits him right in the, he like punches him in the chest. He hits him in the chest, and then all of a sudden, like he feels like the doubts went away or something or whatever. Like, oh well, yeah, okay. If a guy is like hitting you, you seem threatened or whatever, then yeah, you're gonna give in to and say, yeah, okay, I don't have any more doubts or whatever. Actually, I don't even remember if the hadith actually says that his doubts went away. Did it say that? But either
On the
way,
screen,
it
wait.
so as we get at the hadith, just to comment quickly on the verse that daughter brought up, this verse that says that there, this in that book there's no doubt in it. There's actually a funny variant on this that Shaddy Nasser brings out from one of the Quran readers called Hamza, and he, instead of reading it as Urayba, he wrote it as Zayt. So it says in that book there's no oil in it. That's how
ذلك
he read it.
الكتاب ذلك الكتاب لا
Yeah.
زيت فيه.
لا زيت. Yeah, exactly.
لا زيت فيه. Yeah, there's no oil in this book. That's if you change the dots. For people who don't know Arabic, you change the dots from
Yeah.
raib and zayt. It changes the word from doubt to oil. So in this book, there's no oil.
This is another one of those words where, like, if the dots aren't in there, the vowels aren't in there, the dots aren't in there, then you can read it in many different ways.
So much that the qari of that who said it with the zayt, with the oil, he was called az-zayyat. He became called az-zayyat later,
Yeah.
the guy of the oil, because of this incident. So
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we have the Ubay. There it is on the screen here. So Mr. Shak, where it says Muhammad, if you see, you said to bring bring your evidence if you're being truthful. Well, here it is on the screen here. This is the evidence. The shak that you're talking about, the doubt that you're talking about, is on Ubay, not on us. It's on Ubay, and it's on the screen for you to read.
Okay, I thought we will be generous and then read the part which is, in case like he doesn't know. Sorry, just.
And who's Ubay? Until sister gets it, who's Ubay, brother? Is he just some unknown? Ubay ibn Ka'b?
You remember Yasir Qadhi said, Ubay is Ubay. He's the Qari. He is who he is. He's
Ubay
the
is one of
master
the
of the
four.
Quran.
He's not the man on the street.
Yeah.
He's one of the four that Muhammad said.
He's one of the four that he said to take the Quran from. Yes.
The Quran is one of the 10 who was promised paradise.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a doubt in your Quran.
Yes. This is the shak. This is the doubt, Mr. Muhammad. It's not in us. It's in Ubay. It's in Muhammad's companions.
Ubay bin Ka'b
and also it's in Muhammad as well, but we don't have to get into that now.
Yeah. Ubay bin Ka'b reported, I was in the mosque when a man entered and prayed and recited the Quran in a style to which I objected. Then another man entered the mosque and recited in a style different from that of his companion. When we had finished the prayer, we all went to Messenger and said to him. So now, like 3 different versions of the Quran here. We all went to Muhammad. This man recited in a style to which I objected, and the other entered and recited style from which that was of his companion. The Messenger of Allah asked them to recite, so that they recited. And Allah's Messenger express approval of their affairs, and that occurred in my mind a sort of denial, which does
Shak in the Arabic, shak, the same word he used.
yeah, which did not occur in the even during the days of ignorance. When the messenger of Allah saw I was so affected, he struck my chest, whereupon I broke into sweating.
Muhammad, so
There you go.
the jig is up.
He got
This guy
beaten
is
by
doubting.
Muhammad.
I better give him the Aisha treatment before he starts doubting some more. Could see it on
Yeah.
his face.
Sahih Muslim. Sahih Muslim, in case you want to kind of put it under the bus, that's Mr. Muslim, Mr. Sahih Muslim.
Yeah, so my eyes are out looking for you, Muhammad. We were talking about us having doubt, us having shak. Well, here it is in Ubay, not in us. So when this, he said that's just a different recitation. Okay, so he has an answer for us.
If it is just a
He said,
different, how can it be different recitation, which is causing him to have doubt, okay, got
Yeah.
beaten by Muhammad, while they didn't have even the dots. Like, did you not listen the scholar where he was saying like it wasn't about the different recitations? Like Ubay
Exactly.
bin Kaab, which Muhammad tells, take the Quran from this guy, okay, doesn't even know at this stage Quran is coming in many different versions. He's just like, oh, why this guy is reciting the Quran like different than I heard? What's happening in here? He's not saying, oh yeah, maybe this is the other way which Muhammad is teaching people. No, that's not the case. He got beaten for that if it's just a different recitation.
Exactly.
I think
Yeah.
this guy is better than Ubay, because
Yeah.
Ubay had
Yeah.
doubt,
Because
but this
remember, we're
guy
talking about
having
the
no
doubt,
doubt.
right? Yeah,
Because
exactly.
Ubay had a doubt, but this guy has no doubt. If only he was in Ubay's shoes, he would have said, you know what? This just proves there's a different recitations. La la la.
Or it
Yeah, you
proves Islam is
deserve
true.
to be better than Ubay.
Oh, sisters, now he said, you have doubt Jesus is a prophet. So, okay,
You
so
see,
he did
going
the,
back
you
to
know,
Jesus,
yeah.
he did he did the course with the Dawa gangs.
Lord,
Yeah,
Lord
he took the
Jesus
Dawah course.
Christ, Lord Jesus Christ is prophet. Lord Jesus Christ is King of Kings. Lord Jesus Christ is Alpha and Omega. Lord Jesus Christ is Prince of Peace. Lord Jesus Christ is Bridegroom. Lord Jesus Christ is the only begotten Son. Lord Jesus Christ is the one who holds the universe with the power of his word. And Lord Jesus Christ is the one day every knee will bow. One day every tongue confess that he is the Lord. Yep.
I
And
believe
sign
that.
of being prophet.
I believe
No
that.
doubt.
I have no doubt. Do you have any doubt, brother?
Yeah, no doubt at all. No doubt
No.
at all.
None of us do.
Okay,
So, yeah,
we
okay.
changed the screen. Let's hope that video is where we left.
Uh-oh. Yeah, let's hope so.
So there were many of them. So it was their holders, and then he burned them. He burned them, and then so that there were only one version would survive. So despite this fact, we do have there are a companion, Ibn Mas'ud, who refused to give his own codex, his own copy, to burn it, and then he kept it. What we know again from the sources and from archaeology, that the Kaaba is not unique. There were other Kaabas. So there were many of them. So it was something that is common in that region. And we have two early books, I think, from the 8th century, 9th century, on pagan pre-Islamic Arabia, written by Muslim authors, and they describe some of these Kaabas. There's like 11 of them or 12 of them, and Mecca was not the biggest. So there was even bigger, Kaabas in the south, in Najran or in Ta'if, right? Archaeology is limited, unfortunately, for political reasons. I don't think it's it's not easy to do excavations in this part of the world. Who built the Kaaba? Abraham or Ishmael or I don't know. No one knows, right? So these are all traditions that they can fall into the category of myths, But in terms of pagan practices, I mean, we for sure the Kaaba before Islam was a center for the Arab pagans. There were idols there. It was worshipped, right, by the pagans. People have to understand that when Islam came and when Muhammad was preaching Islam, he was not preaching something new. And even the stories, the biblical stories that he was telling them, they already knew these stories. All the stories in the Quran and all the concepts, they are pre-Islamic. They come from the pre-Islamic Near East context. Otherwise, no one would follow this man. When you talk about the origins of Islam, Muslims themselves, they don't say, well, Muhammad came and then he reinvented the wheel. No one says that. Many Islamic practices were pagan practices, and they were incorporated.
I just wanted to just comment on this one part about the Kaaba, if it's okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just sent out the sources to Sister Daughter of Christ, and we can show it afterwards, maybe on another stream or something. But basically, there is a reference from the Arab historian, Muslim, like he said, called Jawad Ali, and he has a book called this particular book he documents like the pre-Islamic period, the history of the pre-Islamic period, and what he says is that there are 21 Kaabas in the Arabian Peninsula. So when Muslims say like, Abraham built the Kaaba and things like this, Abraham built it or Adam built it, whatever they say, which of these 21 are they claiming? Which of these 21 are they claiming that he built? Because there are competing traditions, like he mentioned Najran. We know that there was a Kaaba in Najran, which, by the way, the Kaaba is basically just like how they would understand like a house or a temple, like a place of worship, basically. Sometimes they weren't always places of worship, according to the scholar. But imagine there's 21 Kaabas in the pre-Islamic Arabia, like in the Arabian Peninsula. So this idea that Abraham just built this one, and this is the special one, and we know all the paganism that was practiced on it. I know this is not really it's not really pertinent to the topic of, preservation of the Quran, but I just want to add that in as a note.
We can do another session on the Kaaba, which we did in the past, but historically and biblically, since Quran comes to confirm the Bible, it is impossible for Abraham to end up in Mecca and build that Kaaba, because from the Bible we can chase back where Abraham went with all of his people, all of his animals, and then built his tent. Remember, he left this rich lifestyle in the city of Ur and then was called by God around age 75 to go to the promised land. So we can chase his journey, and from that we know like he traveled like, I think, approximately like 1,000 kilometers. I've got all that like worked out in archaeology side of the slides. I can check them out as well in next live stream. Like, it is practically impossible for him to go there and then build that building called Kaaba, in the one in Mecca Muslims are talking about. And yes, there are lots of different Kaabas, and even there were bigger ones. Just we end up being left with Muhammad's one, thanks to religion of pieces.
You're right.
Did you notice how many times he said pre-Islamic paganism that was incorporated in Islam?
Yeah, and also in that, like, it's not only they copy and paste or whatever other terms you can use, like they took from the pagan customs. If you remember, when direction of the prayer changes to Mecca around 624, Muhammad, without any object, approximately 8 years, 6 years, he turns and then prays the house where pagan gods are still in. Like in Mecca, that 6 years until 630, he's got 360 gods in Kaaba. In, like, let's go with the traditional Mecca Kaaba. And Muhammad has no objections to pray towards them for whole 6 years. Whole 6 years. He's got like literally no problem praying towards that. And then after that, even like the satanic verses, all that kind of things is over there where Muhammad bows down to them. But after 6 years, suddenly he decides he's going to go and destroy it. Sorry, sister, I cut you off.
No, that's all. Sister, they were just a bunch of pagans in Arabia. They all each had their own Kaaba, and then Muhammad was like, "This one is mine. Let me conquer all of you, and then destroy all of them, and let me be the chief of it." And yeah, by the way, it's from God. Like, it's so obvious. And Shaddy Nasser is onto something here. It is all. He said, "Did you notice? Muhammad didn't bring anything new. Otherwise, no one would have followed him." He basically mixed some biblical stories that he heard with some paganism from Arabia and mixed it all in one religion, mix and match. There you go. Follow me. And with a Quran that wasn't written until after he died, with lots of contradictions and variations in it. It's just pitiful, sister. Go on.
Anyone wants to add anything, brother? Or I can move on last 4 minutes of the video.
Yeah, we can move on. I do see another comment. It's tempted to respond, but it's going to bring us on this topic of the Kaaba. So let's move on.
Do not fall into temptation. Yeah, we can do live stream
Yeah,
on
do not follow.
Kaaba and then look at the historical references as well.
Islam, pilgrimage, for example, right?
Yep.
It's the same. I mean, it is described in the Muslim sources how pagan Arabs were doing pilgrimage around the Kaaba. The things that they were saying, even like it's exactly the same phrases that Muslims now say when they are doing pilgrimage. It's exactly the same phrases that the pagans were using, but you replace the name of the idol with the name of God. That's it. No, we have to poke holes. That's what we do. If other people are not comfortable with poking holes,
Right.
They just want. That's what we do in academia, or we are curious and we want to poke holes. We are curious. We want to understand the origins of things, and sometimes it would hurt other people's feelings. I understand that, but I think that's a grand quest. It's right that the issue of the variant readings, right?
Okay, let's pause here for a second.
Oh, I think he's responding to is this right, daughter? He's responding to Yasir Qadhi and
That
Muhammad
whole
Hijab.
narrative,
Right?
he's been
Yeah.
very, very, very careful.
Okay.
But I'm sorry.
Yeah. I noticed topic changed, so I assume that he's talking about like do not cross the red line. So
Yeah, exactly.
anything anyone wants to add to that before we move on to that, like on the story of the Muhammad, how Muhammad was like practicing,
Like using the
continuing
pagan
the
phrases
pagan,
and
yeah.
things. Yeah.
Did
I mean,
you hear?
it just goes back to. Oh, sorry, daughter. Go ahead. Sorry, I got excited.
Sorry, brother. Go on. And I'll...
Gentleman
Oh,
first.
okay. Okay. Sorry about that. I just jumped in without even
Right.
thinking. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah, this idea that like it goes back to this idea of copying legends of old and stories of old and traditions of old, and taking the poetry and religion and all these different things, all these different texts, orally things, orally transmitted things, and whatever. We see that Muhammad had a habit of this. So even when Muslims go and they make pilgrimage, they make what they call Hajj. They make pilgrimage. The things that they say, that he's talking about the phrases that they say when they get there. This is exactly what the pagans would say, but instead of saying Allah to like Al-Uzza or whatever, you have to say Allah instead. So they would say identical things, identical phrases, just place out Allah's name for the pagan name. So it really wouldn't have been that different for the Quraysh at the time. And plus, they didn't really necessarily reject Allah. They just had other gods, right? So they wouldn't really have had a problem with that. They got to continue their pagan practices, just dedicated to Allah alone.
And I need to find the pictures, but I've got some pictures with all those pagan gods from Middle East before the lockdown. We can look at some of those gods and then meet with them in probably next live stream. Okay, so now Daughter of Christ, we are moving to the part where he's responding Islamic Dawa gangs and Yasir Qadhi, correct?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
I didn't want to put it because it would be too long to put them again saying what we already know they said.
Yeah. So that, I think that's the part where Yasir Qadhi expressed there are holes in the narrative. We don't know what is the relation between Aruf and Krat. It's all messed up. Don't cross the line. Let's listen what he's gonna say to that.
No, we have to poke holes. That's what we do. I mean, if other people are not comfortable with poking holes, they
Right.
just want. That's what we do in academia, or we are curious and we want to poke holes. We are curious. We want to understand the origins of things, and sometimes it would hurt other people's feelings. I understand that, but I think that's a grand quest. It's right that the issue of the variant readings, right, or the ahraf, it is problematic from a theological perspective, right? If you want to say, well, the Quran is one and it is the word of God, and then you have, all these variant readings, well, then it is a problem, for you, if God is really uttering all these variants. I think we are now in an age where it's very difficult to keep things hidden.
Right.
Or away from public with the internet. This is an issue that you find in books of creed. The average Muslim is encouraged to not pursue certain questions that would cause doubt. This is hijab, the
Muhammad Hijab.
yeah. I think his question is problematic. The premise of the question is not accurate, right? To say that if I'm going to give you a paper and write down what is revealed from God, once things get to earth from the heavens and you start writing things down, there's human interference.
Right.
So the premise of the question is problematic when you say, well, okay, write for me now what is verbatim revealed from God. The question is wrong, because you can't combine something which is oral and then represented accurately in writing. Now you go to a bookstore and then you buy the Quran. It's written on it Quran, and it shouldn't be written on it Quran. It should be written on it Mus'haf, which means codex, and that's what many institutions do. They call it the Mus'haf. They don't call it Quran. You shouldn't be calling a written text Quran, at least according to the tradition, So that's the distinction. When people think, well, okay, I have a printed edition or I have a written version and this is the Quran, that's the issue here, the distinction between the oral and the written. Even Muslim scholars, they were probing and poking holes. They were not just sitting and then saying, okay, well, this is what we have, everything is beautiful. No, they knew that there were problems. And they were poking holes. And there are many traditions and hadith and discrepancies, again, which I talked about before, is that because you have discrepancies, because Muslim scholars, they were poking holes, what's happening with variants, this is a mistake, this is a scribal error, how do we reconcile, the different discrepancies that we have in the tradition? They did poke holes. I did my best. God knows best. That's the attitude. If you want to sell your product, you can't sell something and say, oh, well, it's defective. There are problems here and there. No, you want to sell it in a beautiful, embellished way. And then after people believe, you start poking, if you want.
Wow.
So, word of Allah enters into human creation, and we will never able to know actually what was it at the first place. Any thoughts on Dr. Shaddy Nasser, who is a Muslim, responding Islamic Dawah gangs and Sheikh Yasir Qadhi? What are your thoughts?
He summarized it very well, sister and brother. He said the average Muslim is not encouraged to pursue questions that may lead to doubt. And that's according to the books of creed, the books of Aqidah of Islam. But he said, at the same time, scholars were already poking holes. Did you hear that? So you've got this one sphere of scholars who know the problems, who are trying to reconcile them, or can't, who know about it, but then the average Muslim is in the dark. And now he said, because of the internet, it is no longer an age where things can be hidden. And he was commenting on what Yasir Qadhi is saying. They should never be brought in public. It's not public. No. Only if you're advanced student of knowledge and come to my course. These days are gone. They're done. This 1400 years of the scholar sphere and the average Muslim sphere, it's not working anymore. Now the average Muslims want this to become mainstream, and they do want to know. And then when they want to know, they'll discover these problems and the holes. And then he was talking about dawah gangs trying to sell the product, which is Islam, trying to make it look good, embellish it. And then he says, but once you come in, then we'll let you know what the problems are. Obviously, by then it was too late, because if you become an apostate, they kill you. So do you see how it works, sister and brother?
Yeah. Sad, sad, sad. Brother, any thoughts?
I was just very interested to hear a scholar like Shaddy Nasser give an assessment on this famous deleted interview. I would have loved if he were to give more thoughts on that. I would love to hear him kind of go deeper, but I understand in interviews and things like that, your time is limited. And if the interviewer is not asking the right questions, then, maybe the information out there won't, come that needs to come out. But anyway, I was really interested to hear his thoughts on that. I think that this point about not asking questions being encouraged in the creedal books, isn't this also in the Quran as well, chapter 5 verse 101, 102? Not, don't ask the questions because people before you asked the questions and it led them into doubt and things like of that nature. So yeah, so I thought that's interesting that he said that. But then as daughter pointed out, that he also said, well, Muslim scholars have kind of dug and kind of crossed the red line, as it were. They did kind of go past that line.
But problem
I
with
don't know if
that,
he understood. Yes. Yeah.
sorry, brother. Problem, before you kind of move to the next thought.
Yeah.
Problem
Yeah.
with that was, yes, certain Muslims talked about it, but that was only in certain circle, so that information wasn't circulating around. When you go and ask a Muslim, oh, do you know you are reading Hafs Quran, they would just look at you like what you are talking about. And even some imams, when you ask them, oh, do you know about this Quran, they don't know. So it's maybe scholars have been speaking about it, even people are ending up in prison being tortured in the past. But when it came to 21st century, what we get to hear from Muslims are, there is only one perfect Quran wherever you go around the world. When that information starts circulating more and more, whatever scholars said in the past in Arabic, in certain people group, in certain level of the people, that information is already being crushed by the Dawah gangs with the statement there is only one Quran all around the world. So therefore, it's not about people talked about it. It is how much that information circulated around.
Exactly. That's exactly where I was going to go with it
Oh,
as well.
sorry.
That no, we were on the same train of thought. That was perfect, because that's exactly where I was thinking as well. That I think he misunderstood Yasir Qadhi. Yasir Qadhi is obviously talking about that point of time that you're talking about, when the sinner narrative is put in place and it's enforced. Whereas Shadi Nasser is it's part of his scholarship and etc. to kind of look back before that standard narrative, and he's trained to look into these things before that standard narrative took place and get into all the different sources. So he's going to be looking at sources that your average Muslim won't even have ever heard of, and they might not ever hear of in their entire lives. So yeah, they're definitely talking about two different things there. But it is interesting to hear his thoughts on it, though. Very interesting.
I haven't watched the video, but I am guessing the person who was questioning Dr. Shadi Nasser didn't show that clip where Muslim missionaries and scholars expressing that there is only one Quran all around the world, and then also full 3 minutes of that deleted interview where everything is being summarized, because otherwise I'm expecting his response would be different. He wouldn't be just stating that. He would had to comment on what Muslim missionaries and sheikhs are saying regarding one preserved Quran. But I haven't watched the full video, so I don't know. I'm just assuming that hasn't been shoved, because you have to say something, even though you want to be politically correct. you will have to make a comment on, yeah, that information is just false or something.
Yeah, he just showed him the Muhammad Hijab part with the Sheikh Yasir Qadhi.
Yeah. Yes. I
Now
think
he
as you said, brother, like when the person who's questioning is not asking the right questions, you won't get the good answers. But overall, that was his
yeah.
response.
Now there is another interview with Gabriel Reynolds and Shaddy Nasser and a couple of other people on the panel, but in particular, this one part I'm thinking of, they did address that specific question of there being one Quran, one version, and specifically in the context of Muslim Dawa missionaries, whatever they call themselves, going around saying and making these claims. So they did he has addressed that question, but yeah, as you said, it wasn't in, I don't think it was in that particular one.
I think overall it will be logical to conclude that, yep, Quran is very much messed up. Qurans are very much messed up.
Yeah, I agree. Very much messed up.
Yeah, very much messed up. Okay,
Yep.
do we have any comments that we want to grab from the chat? Otherwise, I'm gonna give you kind of last couple of minutes to make your last comments, and then we finish the evening from there.
What I also learned from Shadi Nasser's sister is the ignorance of the Dawa gangs. Notice that he said that Muhammad Hijab shouldn't have asked that question. If he had any knowledge of the Muslim tradition, he would know not to ask something to be written down when it's meant to be an oral text, the distinction between
Revealing from
oral and
heaven, yeah.
written. And also, sister, do you remember he said that manuscripts shouldn't be read? And another member of the Dawa gangs were reading manuscripts, pretending that they could read them. You had to have.
I remember that.
I just learned the Dawa gangs that are propagating Islam, sister. They have no knowledge of their own tradition, and they just dig deeper and deeper holes. And we got scholars like this who say this is just nonsense. Like they shouldn't be doing this. They're just trying to sell a product, embellishing, and then hoping people will fall for it. And then Allah knows best afterwards.
Allah knows nothing knows best. Yeah, yeah. Brother, have you got last comments, last thoughts, or
Sure.
what are the things you learned from Dr. Shadi Nasir?
One of the things that I thought that was really interesting that he brought out was that Muslims didn't even agree on what to call this book that they were writing, this collection. Abu Bakr says, like, what do we call it? What do we name it? And do we call it the Injil? Do we call it the Torah? Do we call it, what do we call it? Do we call it the Quran? Do we call it Mus'haf? And I thought that was a really interesting point. But yeah, so I really enjoyed doing the stream with you two sisters. It's always a blessing, and thank you so much for having me on. It's a pleasure, and pray that this was a blessing to you all, to the viewers, and to everyone who is who's watching. Thank you again for having me on, and God bless everybody. Jesus is Lord, and Islam is false.
Thank you very much, brother. You are just so polite for us. But thank you. So I think we will finish the evening here. I think, brother, are we still up for going through kind of have a funeral for Hafs on Thursday, Hafs Quran?
Oh yeah, we can definitely do that. We can go over the chain of narration and all that.
Yeah. So on Thursday we will have the funeral for Hafs or Hafs Quran with you, brother. And Thought of Christ, thank you very much for joining us. And Brother Jai, thank you very much for being our honored guest. And thank you very much everyone who joined us in the chat. I do hope that it's not only you become more confident that Quran is not being perfectly preserved and there are too much holes on, or this hole becoming giant hole in the preservation of the Quran. You're also able to see while Islam doesn't have that much leg to stand on, we can point people to one perfect word of God, Lord Jesus Christ, who is amazing, beautiful, and delightful. And one day every knee will bow down to him. One day every tongue will confess Jesus Christ is the Lord. And with that on note, beloved ones, may Christ crucified silently with his love. Dear Muslim friends, when you have better arguments, hopefully we will able to meet with you again and have proper debates and discussions. God bless you all. We will see you on Thursday evening.